Hi everyone, my name is Haley Hernandez, and today I will be discussing the topic of the United States invasion of Puerto Rico in 1898 and how it was a pivotal moment for the island, transitioning from a Spanish colony to an American territory, and the effects of it to this day. So the invasion of Puerto Rico was part of the broader Spanish-American War that erupted in 1898. This conflict supposedly began over Cuba's fight for independence, and at the time, President William McKinley was the one who had declared war on Spain in April 1898. And that same year, on July 25, 1898, Guanica was attacked, and this was by William Sampson, who had bombarded the capital for 3 hours, and he had left about 2 people dead. The military operation was carried out with few incidents between the Americans and the civilian population. The invasion did affect the island. It prevented the development of autonomous system granted by Spain to the island in 1897, and foreign trade had come to a stop, and the country had sank into an economic crisis. The working population paid the price with hunger and hardship. At the time, the criollos had somewhat of a positive attitude towards the invasion because they had hoped that the Americans would, or the American governing institution would bring them prospects, and they had also hoped that it would bring them more benefits, which is why I believe that Puerto Rico didn't really resist too much when the U.S. troops came, because it was supposed to promise, or it was supposed to bring relief for the working class and those that were in poverty, because it reopened the ports, and it brought food and other necessary products that Puerto Rico needed, and they depended on it. Also, the military rule only lasted about 2 years, and then it also brought in the Treaty of Paris. The war ended with the Treaty of Paris. It was signed in 1898, paying seceded Puerto Rico, along with Guam and the Philippines, to the United States. And I do believe that the United States had paid Spain $20 million for compensation of the Philippines, and Cuba had gained its normal independence under American influence. And more importantly, Puerto Ricans had no representation in these negotiations that determined their future. It affected coffee and tobacco industries because the products became foreign, which affected their sales in their traditional markets of Spain and Cuba that were due to increased taxes. It was during this time that there was an economic transformation in the coffee industry, tobacco industry, and I believe the needle industry. So coffee was Puerto Rico's primary export and economic engine, with the island producing some of the finest coffee. But the crop was particularly successful in the mountains, and after the U.S. invasion, coffee exports plummeted, and because of the hurricane in 1899, it destroyed many of the plantations. Speaking of which, the Hurricane San Siricao, which happened in August of 1899, it devastated the island. It killed approximately around 3,000 people, and it was Puerto Rico's economic backbone. This natural disaster compounded the difficulties of the political transition, and it was in 1899 that the U.S. mandated the exchange of Puerto Rico pesos for American dollars at, I believe, at the rate of 60 cents per peso. The devaluation significantly harmed local property owners, businesses, and transferring wealth to American investors who could now purchase the land and businesses at effectively discounted prices. And it was in 1990, the Foraker Act that Congress had passed, establishing civilian government, but it didn't grant Puerto Ricans U.S. citizenships or voting rights. And the act basically created a governor appointed by the U.S. president, It established an executive council with 11 members, and only 5 of them could be Puerto Rican. It allowed for an elected House of Delegates with limited powers. It declared Puerto Rico an unincorporated territory belonging to but not being part of the United States. It had some colonial challenges that presented numerous challenges. And Puerto Rico lost political rights that were gained under Spanish autonomy. The island became a captive market for American goods. Local industry struggled against American corporate interest, and cultural identity faced pressure from Americanization policy. Overall, I feel like when the U.S. invaded Puerto Rico in 1898, it completely changed the island's future. The invasion, basically, before the invasion, Puerto Rico had many different types of farming. They had tobacco, they had coffee, they had sugar, and it just kind of changed all that because after the invasion, the U.S. or American companies focused solely on the sugar production, and Puerto Rico became dependent on the U.S. and they became financially vulnerable. What literally just started as a military action during a short war, it turned into a long-lasting colonial relationship. So now, years later, Puerto Rico's political status still kind of remains unclear. It is neither a U.S. state or an independent country. So that is still to be determined for the future.